I never planned to expose anyone. I just wanted to know why our HOA suddenly felt different. Why rules that didn't exist last year were now being enforced overnight. Why neighbors were getting fines they couldn't explain. Why the HOA president kept saying, "Trust us," while refusing to show a single document. And the moment we stopped trusting them, everything unraveled. Because what we discovered wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't poor communication, it was a secret plan, quietly built behind closed doors, that would have cost homeowners thousands if it hadn't backfired in the worst possible way. At first, the HOA president looked like the perfect leader. Calm voice, polished smile, always talking about community standards and protecting property values. They controlled every meeting with confidence, moving quickly through the agenda, brushing off questions with practiced phrases. Most people didn't push back. Life was busy. People assumed someone else was paying attention. That assumption was exactly what they were counting on. The first warning sign didn't feel big at the time. A neighbor received a fine for a rule no one remembered voting on. Another homeowner was denied approval for a repair that had been allowed for years. Then came a sudden fee increase, labeled temporary, with no end date and no vote. When someone asked how it was approved, the president said it happened during an executive session. No details, no paperwork, just executive authority. That phrase kept coming up, executive session, always used as a shield, and the more we heard it, the more uncomfortable things felt. Here's the part that still bothers me. When homeowners asked normal questions, polite, reasonable questions, the tone changed. Emails stopped getting responses. Meeting times were moved with short notice. People who spoke up were labeled problematic. One neighbor was privately warned that continuing to question decisions could result in violations. That's when it hit us. This wasn't about order, it was about control. So one homeowner did something simple and powerful. They filed a formal records request. Nothing dramatic, just a request to see what we were legally allowed to see. The response took longer than it should have, and when the documents finally arrived, something was off. Pages were missing, attachments referenced but not included, email threads that jumped mid-conversation. But hidden in what they did send were emails the HOA president never expected residents to read. Emails discussing strategy, emails talking about enforcement leverage, emails outlining how to change rules without triggering homeowner votes. And that's when we realized we weren't dealing with incompetence, we were dealing with intent. The deeper we read, the worse it got. There were plans to introduce retroactive fines, plans to shift maintenance costs directly onto homeowners, plans to rewrite enforcement language so vague that almost anything could become a violation. All of it framed as streamlining operations, all of it kept off the agenda. Then we found the contract, a third-party consulting agreement signed quietly, without a vote, without disclosure. It gave a third-party company the power to issue violations and influence fines. And buried in the emails was the detail that changed everything. The HOA president had a prior professional relationship with that company. Suddenly, it made sense. The urgency, the secrecy, the hostility toward questions. This wasn't governance, it was a setup. The next HOA meeting was packed. People who hadn't attended in years showed up. No one was smiling. The president opened the meeting like nothing had happened. Routine announcements, polite tone. Then someone stood up. Printed emails were placed on the table, highlighted sections read aloud, contract clauses quoted word for word. The room went silent. The president tried to explain it away, said the emails were taken out of context, said the contract was misunderstood. But you can't explain away your own words. A board member admitted they hadn't known the full details. Another resigned right there in front of everyone. And just like that, the power shifted.
Homeowners demanded an audit. The contract was suspended. Emergency elections were scheduled. Within weeks, the HOA president stepped down. No apology, no explanation, just a quiet exit and a carefully worded message about personal reasons. Here's what I learned from all of this. HOAs only work when people assume they're boring. The moment no one pays attention, that's when bad decisions thrive. If someone tells you not to worry, that everything is handled, that documentation isn't necessary, that's the moment you should start asking questions. Because sometimes the biggest betrayals don't come with shouting or threats. They come with smiles, closed-door meetings, and the hope that no one will ever read the fine print.